speaking of yesterday, just before the show ended, a caller generated several listener texts and phone calls, and that's great. A couple of texters disliked the caller's views so much that they thought I should, use the cutoff button or whatever. Well, I just want to say, that's not me. I welcome all callers, even those with opposing views. Democracy is staring down a gun barrel, and the answers are not easy. Now, my gut tells me that the answer is to listen more, not less, and don't just hang up on people because they don't think the same way as you. We live amongst a lot of misinformation and disinformation, fears, animus, distrust. But I believe in my gut that we cannot quit on people, particularly our own people, Wisconsinites. So we're going to have to extend kindness and compassion if we're going to work our way out of this. So on to the important piece. For the next 5 months, until the November election, we're going to experience an escalating barrage of audio and video clips trying to tell us that one presidential candidate is more senile than the other. So who's behind it? It's more than Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. It's also political party strategists. Why? Because negative campaigning works. Get lots of people discouraged enough not to vote. Then focus on turning out your base voters. Sadly, it's a formula that works. Now back to the presidential candidates and their verbal gaffes and flubs. Now, does mixing up names or having a memory lapse tell us if they're competent decision makers? Well, it turns out that these sound bites and video clips don't tell us about the mental capacity required for a complex leadership job, according to Leo Gugerty, a cognitive psychologist at Clemson University. Some of our divisions are intuitive. Our experience and memory inform us of what has worked before and what will likely work again. But there's a deliberate decision making. We must understand multiple factors, negotiate with competing points of view, consider several solutions, and forecast their consequences. It's complex. I get it. And it's what competent presidents do every day. Guterres says good decision making requires 3 types of thinking, no matter what our age. Early social learning and education influence whether these skills become habits. And that's the key. Are they habits? One is being open-minded. Guterres says if a person is disposed to being open-minded, that doesn't decline and may actually even increase with age. Number 2 is having the habit of weighing all evidence, both pro and con, and then setting your confidence level based on what the evidence tells you. You see, to be certain of being right is to be overtly confident and not deliberative. Third is teamwork. For a president, that would mean not surrounding yourself with people telling you what you want to hear. It means really listening to people who tell you what you don't want to hear because they may be right. Guterres writes that effective decisions rely on extensive job-related knowledge, especially the deliberative decision-making. Having a momentary memory lapse or mixing up a name is distinctly different from knowing many concepts learned from on-the-job experience. According to Guterres, when people keep using their on-the-job knowledge, those skills do not decrease with age, lasting at least well to the age of 90. If you want to consider what a cognitive psychologist like Leo Gugerty of Clemson says about the value of the on-job experience, you may want to consider each candidate's years of elective office experience. Mr. Trump has 4. Mr. Biden has 44. If you want to consider what an expert like Guterres says about the importance of making big decisions after listening to evidence, both pro and con, you can consider that Mr. Trump was well known for basing decisions primarily on polling results or siding with the views of the person he talked to last. Mr. Trump has been quite clear that if reelected, he will surround himself exclusively with loyalists. Mr. Trump boasted his common sense decisions were better than the decisions of any generals in the military, despite their many years of military experience. We can rise above the media's focus on verbal gaffes and flubs. We can instead focus on what candidate has proved to us about their ability and capacity to make the big, complex decisions. You know, the decisions that really matter for the long term. Our family, our nation, and the planet. Big choices to make coming up in November. Who are going to elect? Their competency, their experience, their habits, how they treat the others around them, their family, their coworkers. Think about it, both Republican and Democrats. Over the years, the best presidents from both parties have been those that welcomed others who didn't agree with them. Abraham Lincoln, Doris Kearns Goodwin literally wrote a book that Lincoln surrounded himself with people who didn't agree with him. And it made him a stronger president because of it. So as we go to the poll in November, as we listen to these debates, this debate coming up next week, ask ourselves, who's more Lincoln-esque? Who's willing to be more humble and take into consideration the thoughts of others?